Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video we're going to give some, not writing feedback, some speaking feedback on Sunny's speaking test. Let's jump straight into it. Good afternoon, my name is Glyn. Would you please tell me your full name?
Well, my full name is Habibur Rahman Sani, but you can call me Sani.
Cool, so this part of the test isn't checked, but just slow down, right? I just can't get your full name here. Listen again. Afternoon, my name is Glyn. Would you please tell me your full name?
Well, my full name is Habibur Rahman Sani, but
Well, my full name is Hamid Salami. Just slow down. Relax, slow down, say things clearly. Remember, names in different countries can be very difficult or unfamiliar, so make sure you're pronouncing it clearly.
you can call me Sani.
Okay, thank you, Sunny. Now, in this first part of the test, I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. Do you work or do you study?
Well, I'm a student.
Candidate has responded to both questions with well at the beginning. Usually this will not affect your score. Examiners will ignore it, but I think we don't want to answer every question with well. I don't know if the candidate does this. I've just noticed it now, just 2 questions in a row.
And I have been pursuing my bachelor degree.
Okay, so a mixture. I have been doing something, great present perfect continuous, but I've been pursuing. I have seen a lot of YouTube videos that say, oh, instead of like I'm studying this, say I'm pursuing my degree. I don't like this construction, to pursue my degree. I think it sounds really unnatural, and even if it is technically correct, it doesn't feel appropriate in terms of the register. I would never say that in a neutral or a informal thing. Oh, what do you study? I'm pursuing my master's degree. It feels too heightened. It feels too academic, perhaps.
Since a couple of years, and
And notice also he says, I've been pursuing my bachelor's degree since a couple of years. It should be for a couple of years or since a couple of years ago. So, the candidate is using present perfect continuous. Great, have been doing something, but mixes up for and since. And I don't love this, like, pursuing my degree. Yeah, not a fan.
studying at Dhaka University, and I'm completing my sociology course. I find it very interesting.
Okay, so the candidate develops, but in the question, do you work or do you study? Really, the examiner's just trying to find out, like, what set of questions do I need to go to? Do I need to go to the set of questions to ask you about your job, or the set of questions to ask you about studying? And all of those things, like, what are you studying? How long have you been studying? Why did you decide that? How do you feel about it? Those questions will come up, and sometimes candidates try to offer too much information immediately. In response to the question, do you work or do you study? It's absolutely fine to say, I study. You can also say, I study sociology, or I'm studying sociology at Dhaka University. That's enough of an answer to the first question. And then, there will be questions about the other stuff afterwards. And why did you decide to study sociology?
Well, when I
Again, we get that well.
was in high school, the time it was my favorite subject, and
Cool. When I was in high school, it was my favorite subject. Nice past.
most of the teachers of mine suggested me to
Most of the teachers of mine suggested me too. Most of my teachers is more natural than most of the teachers of mine. It sounds a bit odd. And suggest somebody to do something. It's not really an accurate verb pattern in English. We know we see this a lot, right? Want somebody to do something, need somebody to do something, ask somebody to do something. But suggest doesn't really follow that pattern. Suggest doing something, or suggest that somebody do something, or suggest that somebody should do something. There are lots of different patterns with suggest, but suggest somebody to do something isn't quite right.
complete my bachelor on sociology, and I think completing my bachelor degree on sociology, I will be able to do other degrees like
Cool, so that's a nice participle clause there. Completing da 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 da. I'll be able to. Love this use of I'll be able to. I really like that.
like master's, PhD, and then I will be able to
I do feel a little bit again like the candidate is just speaking a little bit too quickly, and it's almost like the mouth isn't fully open, and this makes it difficult with the pronunciation. So it's almost like the talking is a little bit like this, and as you can see, that my mouth there is not really moving very much, and this can affect the broadly, it can affect pronunciation, but it also limits the amount of intonation that you can use if your mouth is too closed and you're not pronouncing words overly clearly, and if you're speaking too quickly. And I feel, unfortunately, this is a problem that a lot of people in South Asia have, in Pakistan, in India, in Bangladesh. A lot of people have that problem that they speak too quickly, they don't open their mouth enough, and it really limits their pronunciation score to a 6. Even though, they have clear pronunciation, it's easy to understand, but we just don't hear things like pausing in the right place, intonation in the right place, putting the stress on the right word in the sentence, which are all really important features for C1 or above. Candidates in Bangladesh, for some reason, just want to speak as quickly as possible, and it often sounds robotic and mechanical, unfortunately.
get a good job in Bangladesh, because Bangladesh is facing a lot of problems in
You can see there are no pauses at the right place here. It's just like machine gun delivery. Sunny isn't the worst candidate for this. I have had candidates before that speak even like more quickly. Um, but it's still noticeable that the speech is just too fast, and so already pronunciation is going to be limited.
terms of getting the sociology lecturers at universities.
Okay, let's move on now and talk about your weekend. Remember, this is part one, right? This is the nice, friendly, simple part. We have simple questions and we want simple answers with a little bit of development. We don't need to answer, the questions don't need to be, the answers don't need to be crazy long here. What do you usually do at the weekend? So I've already gone on to the next topic now of weekend. I've only asked, like, do you work or do you study? And why did you choose sociology? But I just have no time to ask any more questions about education, which I would like to do, but I can't because Sunny has taken up too much of this time with his long answers.
Well, I do a lot of things
Game, we get this well.
at my weekends, but mostly I go to
At my weekends also sounds strange. At the weekend is better. I mean, it's only not a problem. I understand what he means, but in terms of like precision of the vocab, at my weekends isn't as precise as at the weekend.
some new places to travel, especially Cox's Bazar, which is the big
Again, we got Akochis Bajar. Akochis Bajar. I don't know what Akochis Bajar is. If it's the name of something in a different language, you have to take that time to say it slowly so that you can understand. It's the same thing if I let's think of something in Wales. If I say, "Oh yeah, I went to a place called Castell," no, not even a place called. I went to Castell yesterday. You don't know what I mean when I say Castell Castell because you're not a Welsh speaker. You don't know what Castell is. But if I say, oh, I went to Castell and Castell is the Welsh word for castle, and Coch means red, so this Castell it's Red Castle, but everybody knows it as Castell. This is good paraphrasing, and it shows appropriacy. It shows an awareness of style. It shows that you know how to communicate effectively with someone that might be unfamiliar with your country or your hometown. I mean, the candidate certainly does say here that it's a famous sea beach, which is a good bit of paraphrasing. I don't like sea beach. I think, just beach or seaside is fine. But again, I just think the delivery of that place name, I just can't hear it. Let's go again.
travel, especially Cox's Bazar, which is
A Coxsich Bajar? But please take the time to slow down and pronounce it clearly. There's no rush here. 15 minutes is a long time. There's no hurry. Slow down, relax, say things clearly.
the biggest sea beach of Bangladesh, and
Okay, so there is some paraphrasing, right? The biggest sea beach of Bangladesh.
I find it very interesting because
Cool, I like this. I find it very interesting because I still prefer what I find interesting is because I feel That's higher level, but okay, I find it interesting because no problem at all.
After a busy week, I can spend my free time with my family members, and I also can do
Okay, but it's I like it because after a busy week, I can spend my free time with my family members. Okay, but that's not specifically about, this specific place, right? Because you could spend time with your family members anywhere. So, maybe explain more specifically why you like this place.
other activities on Cox's Bazar Sea Beach,
And again, that Coxeter Budget at the Sea Beach, it's too fast.
playing, riding a speedboat, enjoying
Playing and then changes riding a speedboat and
different kinds of foods at restaurant.
enjoying different kinds of food at restaurant. So, he's only listed three things here. And I think if you are going to only list, maximum of three things. But for me, it's much more interesting to just pick one thing or a couple of things and talk about them. So instead of saying, oh, we play and we ride the speedboat and we try different food, I'd like to just say, oh, in this place, there are like lots of different restaurants where you can eat lots of different types of food. Personally, I'm a big fan of spicy food, and there's one place that does this like amazing curry. So I love going there, and my family like it too. So, it's nice that we can all enjoy it. That's just simpler, easy to understand, and you're giving precise details.
So many things I can do.
What did you do last weekend?
Well,
Again, we get this well. I think every question now has been well. So I will ask you again, it's probably not going to affect your IELTS score. I really don't think it will. But just as a piece of advice, don't answer every question. Don't begin every question. Don't begin the answer to every question with the word well.
I went to the mountain
Cool, I went to past simple.
last weekend. It was a Friday, and the mountain was situated nearby my house.
Again, it just feels like, do we need this detail? I went to the mountain and the mountain was situated nearby my house. You could put that into one sentence, right? I went to a mountain near my house and we don't need that. I went to a mountain and the mountain was situated next to my house, and, we want to be more concise, more cohesive.
Usually, the place where I'm living right now is a very natural place
Okay, the place where I'm living is a very natural place. The question is, what did you do last weekend? Tell me about what you did in this mountain.
of Bangladesh, and it has a lot of things. Especially, it has a number of mountains. So
And now he's talking about the place, and the place has a number of mountains. But, what is the focus here? Last weekend or the place where you live?
I tried to climb up the mountain. It took a lot of time. It was
So yeah, it just feels a little bit chaotic, right? I went to the mountain. The mountain is situated near my house. My house is in a area in Bangladesh, which is very natural. And in this area, there are lots of mountains. And so I tried to climb up the mountain. Just take that back. So I went to a mountain near my house and I tried to climb the mountain. That's better.
it was very time consuming. But when I became able to climb up
So notice the lack of intonation. When I became able to climb up, when I became able to climb up. I'm not saying this. I know a lot of people think that I'm making fun of candidates when I repeat their way of speaking, but I'm not making fun. I'm only trying to explain like what I hear in terms of intonation. So I will repeat that again. Just listen to the mechanical pronunciation here.
especially it has a number of mountains. So
Especially it has a number of mountains, so not quite natural intonation.
I tried to climb up the mountain. It took a lot of time. It was very time consuming. But when I became able to climb up the
But when I became able to climb up the mountain, yeah, the intonation is lacking. Sorry.
mountain, I could see everything from there, like the
Because I could see everything from there. Great grammar.
distant
Nice past modality.
places of my area from the mountain. You know that it is very
Again, slow down, slow down, slow down.
highest, and I could
And all of this, remember, is the question, what did you do last weekend, right? If I was in an IELTS test and somebody said, what did you do last weekend? I say, oh, I went up a mountain, which is near my house. It took a long time, actually, about 4 hours in total. Fine. Next question. Candidate is producing too much language here.
see everything. It was very enjoyable.
It's almost like every question he's trying to tell a story. We don't need we don't need a story. A story, the long turn you'll have in part two, right? What do you study? I study English at university. Is better than what do you study? Oh, I study English at university because I really like English, and English is a really good thing. And the reason why I'm studying it is because English is a fantastic subject, and I think it's very interesting, and it's going to be great in the future. And I think for my future, if I study English, then I can do many things. Like, for example, I could do a master's degree in English, but I could also become a teacher. We don't need this like super stretched out, and it puts a strain on the listener when you do this. It's negative for fluency and coherence because you're trying to answer every question with a long story, and we just don't need that in part one. And how are your weekends different now compared to when you were a child?
Well, when I was
Again, we get, well,
a child, at the time I was involved in many works because my
I was involved in many works. It's not really detailed, is it? When I was a child, I was involved in many works. Now, I will say, in terms of grammar, great. I was involved in terms of collocation there, of the lexical range and lexical resource to be involved in something. I was involved in many works. In terms of its communicative achievement, I don't know what that means. I was as a child. When I was a child, I was involved in many works. It's like the candidate is trying too hard to use like this be involved in. But just think, what did you do when you were a child?
my parents were very like cordial about me.
I was involved in many works. My parents were very cordial about me. I don't know what that means. The language feels heightened, but still, I was involved in many works. My parents were very cordial about me. Um, yeah, I just don't quite understand what that means.
Because they always wanted me to study hard.
Cool. They always wanted me to study hard. Great. Want somebody to do something. Candidates' grammar, I have to say, is impressive.
They admitted me in a lot of coaching centers.
They admitted me. They admitted me in a lot of cutting centers. I didn't quite get the centers. So again, admitted me just feels too heightened. It feels too formal. It's not real, everyday, natural language. My parents admitted me in many cutting centers, and I was involved in many works.
Because I was a student of science. So they admitted me in many coaching centers for
And again, they admitted me in any coaching centers, and because the candidate is speaking too quickly, I can't hear what type of centers. He's mentioned this two times now, the type of centers, and I still don't know what centers they are because the candidate is rushing and speaking too quickly.
studying all of my science subjects. And after that, they also admitted me in English
So again, then we get this repetition. They admitted me in, they admitted me in, and now we get they admitted me in. I don't like this repetition of vocab so much.
courses. So I didn't get enough time in my childhood to do something at my weekend. But
But paraphrase, like wrap that up, summarize that. Don't give too many details. When I was younger, I didn't have much time because my parents made me go to like different clubs, like science clubs and English clubs. But nowadays, and that's fine. That would be fine as an answer. Making it shorter, you know,
if I talk about right now, like I am getting a lot of free time and
I'm getting a lot of free time instead of I have a lot of free time. I am getting a lot of free time. Just odd.
I'm enjoying a lot. I'm going outside.
I'm enjoying a lot. I'm going outside. It feels chaotic. It feels like the candidate is just rushing to say anything. And so we get all of these sentences that are back to back, which don't really add much to the communicative achievement. I'm getting a lot of free time, so I'm doing a lot of things. I'm going outside. I'm enjoying. It's like, just relax. Think about what you want to say and say it. Whereas nowadays, I go out a lot and then mention one or two of the activities that you do.
Frequently for traveling, for hanging out with my friends.
Great, right? So in the past, I didn't have much free time because my parents sent me to a lot of different clubs, like science clubs and English clubs. But nowadays, I have a lot more free time. So I do some things that I want to do, like traveling. That's fine. That's the perfect, concise answer. It contains everything that you want to say, but it doesn't have all of this chaos of so many clauses and so many sentences and so many extra bits of language that we just don't need.
I'd definitely say it has changed a lot.
Let's talk about films and cinema now. How often do you watch movies?
Well, to be honest, I don't like
So now we've had every question has started with a well. Every answer has started with a well. Um, yeah, I'm not going to mention that anymore, but please stop using well at the beginning of each answer. It's okay. We all do this from time to time. I always mix up the word question and answer, and I'm trying to fix this, I promise. And I say a lot, but try not to use so much well.
to watch movies because
We're already 20 minutes in here, so I'm not going to be too detailed now.
I'm a person who is involved in many works, so I don't
I'm a person who's involved in many works. Again, we're repeating this, but it doesn't do anything. I don't know what it means. I'm a person who's involved in many works. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry.
get enough time to watch movies. But I can remember that a few months ago, I went to the cinema with my friends. I was not very interested, but I was forced by my friends
Cool. I love this. I was forced by my friends. Past simple passive. Very nice.
to go there. So I watched a movie called Three Persons. It was in Hindi. It was a Hindi movie, and it was very enjoyable.
And do you have a favorite actor or actress?
Oh, definitely, I have a lot of actors, but the most
I have a lot of actors. A lot of favorite actors.
favorite actor is Mr. Shah Rukh Khan, who is the superstar
Again, if it's a person's name in a language that isn't English, please pronounce it clearly. Please.
of Indian films, and he is very well looking, although he is
Not well looking, but he's good looking.
a little bit
And notice how quickly he jumps into this although. He misses the intonation here. Watch, there's no pause with before this although.
is Mr. Shah Rukh Khan, who is the superstar of Indian films, and he is very well looking, although he is a little bit
Again, it just feels rushed.
short, but he looks like very nice, and
He looks very nice, not he looks like very nice. So, there's a bit of a grammatical weakness there. The difference between look plus adjective, look like plus noun.
he has created a lot of
But great present perfect there he has created a lot of. Candidate's grammar is good. There are some bits that are like not quite, but he's definitely at the C1 level for grammar.
top movies which are very enjoyable.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we've taken a long time to give feedback on part one. I won't give such detailed feedback on parts two and three, but some comments on part one. Candidate is willing to speak at length, but the candidate speaks at length too much. The candidate adds so many bits of extra unnecessary detail, so many extra clauses. It often takes him like 3, 4, or 5 clauses to say something that you could say in 1 or 2 clauses. Cool. The pronunciation is, generally easy to understand, but it does cause a little bit of strain when you're forced to listen carefully because the candidate is speaking too quickly, and sometimes words go missing, like the type of center, quoting center, the type of this place, which is the sea beach, and the name of this Indian actor. There are bits of language that are lost because the candidate is speaking too quickly. Another effect of the candidate, or another consequence of the candidate speaking too quickly, is that the pronunciation doesn't have intonation. He doesn't pause in the right place because he doesn't pause at all, except when he's thinking about what to say. But there's no pause for effect there. Sentence stress, we can't see any real strong evidence of good sentence stress because, again, the candidate's delivery of his language is just too fast. Vocab is generally good, but it does feel a bit too heightened, like I was involved in many works, or I'm pursuing this degree, or my parents admitted me in many clubs, and some of the language just feels a little bit, academic or formal. It doesn't feel like natural, neutral, informal, conversational stuff. Um, yeah, so overall the candidate is doing very well. The biggest problem I think is there's just too much volume. The candidate's answers here are just too long. Grammatically, candidate is very strong, very few mistakes. The mistakes don't lead to any misunderstanding, and there's definitely a good range. He uses subordinate clauses like this person who is very famous or who is from India with although clauses, things like this. So we get a nice range of sentences, nice range of grammar with past simple and present perfect continuous and present simple and will be able to. So candidate does have good flexibility moving around, time and aspect, like present, past, future, time, aspect, like perfect, continuous, simple. So all of that's good stuff. Let's see how he does in part two. His task is to describe a close friend. This is a very friendly task too. Describe a close friend you have. Cool. Easy to get through, right? Topic on my screen. Now. Start speaking now, please. Okay, here we go.
Of course. Well, in my life, I have got a lot of intimate friends, but
I've made a lot of intimate friends, not got.
today here I would like to talk
Or I have had a lot of intimate friends.
about one of one of my intimate friends, whose name is Mr. David Smith, and
Mr. David Smith. Is that a real person? It sounds very. Sometimes, if you're filling out an application form, they give you an example, right? Write your name here. And usually they pick the most generic name, and usually it's David Smith. Okay.
he is basically from England.
He's basically from England? What's the use of basically here? He's basically from England. I don't know, basically.
He's a British person,
Okay. If he's from England, I don't think you need to tell me that he's a British person.
and he is 18 years old. So I can still remember that when I was 10 years old, that time there was a family
Okay, so we've seen who the friend is. It's David Smith. He's English, from England. He's British. Now I guess we're talking about how they met.
trip to England from Bangladesh for visiting our relatives who were living
Not for visiting, but to visit. So usually to express purpose in English, we usually use if the purpose is a verb, we usually use this infinitive, right? I went to the library to read a book, not I went to the library for reading a book. I went to Paris to see the Eiffel Tower, not I went to Paris for seeing the Eiffel Tower. So, a little bit of a problem. But again, it's not a huge problem.
in England. So the time I went there, the time was 2015, and
The time I went there, the rain was 2015? What is this?
the time was 2015,
The rain was 2015?
and the time I went there, I can remember that we visited London first, and where
Okay, but I can remember we visited London first. Now, is this part of the story how you met? Maybe, but it really feels like now your focus is on a trip I had to London. And I really don't like it when candidates try to shift the topic, right? I'm not saying that Sunny's doing this. I think Sunny is a good English user and I think he can deal with a variety of topics. But sometimes you get some tricky A2s or some tricky B1s who, they prepare to talk about a holiday that they had. And no matter what the topic is, they determine that they're going to speak about this holiday. So if the question is talk about a musical instrument you have, well, that's not a real question, but you say, okay, I'll talk about my guitar, which I bought in England. Let me tell you about the trip that I had to England. I went to England in 2015 and da 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 da. Or they might say, talk about your favorite type of animal. And they say, oh, my favorite type of animal is a kangaroo because it reminds me of a trip that I went on to Australia. I went to Australia in 2015. And then they shift the focus. So, be careful that you're not doing that because it seems now that you've stopped talking about David Smith and you're just talking about your trip to London.
I met a lot of people. Among them, I met Mr. David Smith, whom I
But Mr. David Smith is just like a tiny part of your story about London, no?
made my best friend. And the time he was studying in high school, he
Okay, so we get more information about David Smith.
was a very supportive person, and
Okay, but this is why I think you're lying. And it's okay to lie, there's no problem. Mr. David Smith, you're telling me that Mr. David Smith is 18 years old. That's what you've told me, right? Mr. David Smith is 18 years old. Now it's 2025, and you said that he was studying at high school. 10 years ago, that would have made David Smith 8 years old. You don't study at high school when you're 8 years old. It's okay to lie, but you should be careful about how you lie.
He was also well looking, and
You've mentioned well looking, but good looking, but we don't want to repeat our ideas. Sometimes if we repeat vocab and repeat ideas in part two, it can be a signal to the examiner that you have difficulty, maintaining a flow of speech, or difficulty filling the 2 minutes with like a progressive answer with a beginning, a middle, and an end.
that time, I did a lot of activities with him, and in that way I could be very closer to him.
Okay, I did a lot of activities with him. In that way, I could be very closer to him, but no detail.
And I can
We don't hear what activities you did.
remember that when I was staying out of my relative's house, that time we started playing cricket with each other, and at the time I made an accident. That time
I had an accident, not made an accident.
my friend, he went ahead to help me. He took
Okay, we don't hear about the accident.
me to hospital, especially like actually I made an accident with bicycle. I
Had an accident with a bicycle. Okay, we get that detail, but like I made an accident and my friend took me to the hospital, and actually I made an accident with the bicycle. So we don't get this progress, right? Of course, not all stories are linear. Sometimes we add extra details and we might manipulate time a little bit, but it really doesn't feel like this is going anywhere. And it really feels more like, talk about a time when you went to London, or talk about a time when you had an accident. It doesn't really feel like we are focused on Mr. David Smith,
tried to play I
the 8-year-old high school student who took you to hospital after you fell off your bike.
tried to ride bicycle, but at one time I made accident.
And now the focus is on the accident, right? So where are we in the story here?
That time I felt very unwell. I was
That time I felt very annual. Don't know what that means.
senseless. At that time, he shouted, and in that way, my parents also went closer to me. So they all took me to
Does this feel like you're talking about a close friend that you have? Does this feel like you're describing a close friend that you have? Or does it feel like you're describing an accident that you had, or a trip that you went on, or that you're trying to talk about all three things because it's difficult for you to stay on topic and speak about one thing, right? The reason we want people to stay on topic is because we want to see how much juice a person can squeeze out of a topic. This is the task. In task 2, can you speak about one thing for 2 minutes? Now, if you're a high level language user, you can do this. If you're a lower level language user, you can't do this, and so you have to speak about multiple things. Now, Sunny, I know that you are a high level language learner. You use English very well. But this is something that you need to work on. You have to work on your part 2 about how you extend, how you develop, and how you stay on topic, because it is clear that you are off topic here.
the hospital, and then
Okay, thank you.
I was
All right, so you've been describing thoughts on part 2. I don't think I need to add anything else, right? Grammar, generally good. Fluency and coherence is weak there. The fluency is fine. The coherence is weak just because we're on too many different topics. Vocab, yeah, he's okay. He is, I don't like the repetition of words a little bit, like well looking. I still think, still think that he has enough range of vocab for a 7, and I don't think the precision. I think the precision of the vocab is like very high 6, and the range is probably 7. So I'm leaning towards the 7 in vocab. Grammar is definitely at a 7, but pronunciation and fluency and coherence, not at level 7, unfortunately. Let's get to part 3. A close friend that you have. Let's talk about friends in general now. Firstly, why are friendships important in people's lives?
well.
Here we get the well.
I think friendship is very important because people need friends because
Okay.
they face a lot of problem.
People need friends because they face a lot of problem. Okay, but explain what you mean there.
For example,
Good.
a lot of people of Bangladesh are facing economical problems like
Economic problems, not economic problems. The word economical exists, but usually we use economical to describe to describe not wanting to spend a lot of money. But economic problems connected to the economy.
they don't have enough money to lead their lives. At the same time,
Okay, but how does friendship help? You have to explain that, right? Friendships are important because people face a lot of problems. Like in Bangladesh, there are lots of economic problems. Okay, but explain how friendships help that.
they have a lot of friends who are very rich and they are helping them with enough finance.
Okay. I mean, is that a general thing? Do most people in Bangladesh have friends who are very rich who help them with finance? I think that's probably not true. But friends might be able to offer them emotional support, or even if friends aren't rich, they might be able to lend them a little bit of money to get through, to the end of the month or something when their next money is due. Or they might be able to give them some food or to invite them around to have a meal together. Those are good things that friends can do in periods of financial difficulty. I think it's a little bit basic to say, oh, yeah, in Bangladesh, we have a lot of economic problems, so you can have friends who are very rich who will help you. It's like, I most of us, Sunny, are not lucky enough to have friends who are very, very rich who can help us all the time.
In the same way, if I talk about the students who are studying in educational institutes, they also need to have friendship with their classmates because they also have a lot of problems with
Okay, but how can friendships help with students then?
their studies. So some of their friends are able to solve those problems. So
Well, which problems? Maybe I get the point, right? I think your point is okay. You speak about people in general, and then you speak about students specifically. I think that's absolutely fine. But just a little bit of detail about what friends can do at university, right? So if you're struggling with an assignment, you can ask a friend around to help you, and they might be able to give you some ideas. That's specific rather than they can solve the problems, which, you know, isn't very detailed. Thank
when they
you.
face those
Thank
problems,
you.
they can
Thank
ask
you.
their
Thank you.
friends to.
So this is one, and I know that this is probably an internet connection delay issue, but one thing that really frustrates me, not frustrates me, but in the moment it frustrates me. I have time, right? I have a clock and I need to get through a number of questions. And if candidates are going off topic or if candidates are giving answers that are too long, I have to stop you. And when I stop you, this isn't a game of like who can continue speaking the longest. Oh, the examiner's trying to stop me, but I want to finish my point. I know it feels uncomfortable. I know you feel like, but let me finish what I want to say. I understand this, but my advice to you and to all people, when the examiner interrupts you, or when the examiner signals that they want you to stop talking, please stop talking. I know you might think that we are rude. You might think that we are like, you might think it's not fair. Like, who are you to stop me from talking? We have our jobs to do too. Right? You have your job to do as a candidate. We have our jobs to do as an examiner. And you don't want to annoy the examiner. I hope that's clear. Candidates should not try to annoy the examiner because the examiner is the person who's going to give you a mark. And so once the examiner says, thank you, please stop talking. I know it seems rude. In real life, if we were speaking in real life and I said, thank you, thank you, thank you, I would expect you, to punch me in the face or maybe to tell me some not very pleasant things in real life. Great. In a social situation, fine. In the exam, understand the examiner has a job to do. When they want you to stop talking, they will let you know, but you should respond and you should stop talking. Let's just watch this beautiful segment again.
So some of their friends are able to solve those problems. So
Thank
when they
you.
face those
Thank
problems,
you.
they can
Thank
ask
you.
their
Thank you.
friends to.
Thank you. What qualities do you think are important in a friend?
Well, there are several qualities what the friends should have.
Yeah, I don't like answers like this, like, oh, there are several qualities that a friend should have. I just think get into it. One quality a friend should have is da 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 because da 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 da. Another quality is da 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 because da 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 da. Right? Instead of there are several qualities that a friend should have, I just feel we can get into it more quickly.
because like there are several like qualities such as honesty and punctuality and other things.
Cool. I love this word building, these nouns: honesty, punctuality, good use of suffixes, helps his vocab.
Because honesty is very important for us, because if we be honest with our friends,
It's a bit cyclical, isn't it? There are many important qualities like honesty, because honesty is important for us. Like, okay.
like we will be able to take our
Love this. We will be able to.
friendship to a long way. And at the same time, we should be supportive with each other, because we need help. We need to
Okay, we talked about honesty and then punctuality, but he didn't go into detail on punctuality and said, but we at the same time we should be supportive to each other.
depend on others. And so if we help each other, suppose like for example, if I help my friends, they will help me
Again, it's just too many ideas, I think, in one answer.
when I will face problems. So I think it is very important, and these are the qualities what we should have.
Why do you think punctuality is so important? So I'm just trying to dig in on one thing that he said here. So now he can focus only on punctuality.
I think punctuality is very important.
So we've had this now like 4 times. Is very important. Is very important. Is very important. It's not a huge problem, but it does feel a little bit repetitive.
Because as I said earlier, that we need others' help. So for
Cool, but why is punctuality important? We need other people's help. That is not connected to punctuality. Punctuality is about being on time. Why is it important for friends to be on time is the question.
example, if my friend faces some problems, at the same time, if he calls me to help him,
This is not about punctuality.
at the same time, if I delay to
Again, we get at the same time now repeated, I think, 3 or 4 times in the last 30, 45 seconds.
help him, if I delay to respond him, the time he will be very angry at
If I delay to respond him, he will be very angry. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of on topic, isn't it? He's kind of talking about why it's important to be punctual, but it really feels like he's talking more about why it's important to be supportive. Again, a simple answer is, well, I think when you're on time, you show your friends that you respect their time. Maybe if you're 5 minutes late, it's not a problem. Or if you're late once or twice a year and you write to your friend, it's okay. But, if you're constantly late, like if you're constantly 30, 45 minutes late, you're really telling your friend that you don't value their time or you don't respect them. That's a clear, easy to understand answer, which is on topic because we're talking about the value of being punctual.
me, and he will definitely try to break our friendship, and that's why it is very important
He will definitely try to break our friendship if I delay to respond to him. I don't know.
for us.
And how do you think technology has changed the way that people make new friends?
Well, technology has changed the way we make friendship with each other.
So, no, there is a repeating of the question there. Technology has changed the way. How has technology changed the way that we make friends? Oh, I think technology has changed the way that we. And then he said make friendships or something. Yeah, it's a bit. We don't want to repeat too much of the language in the question.
Because technology has enabled us to use.
Technology has enabled us to use. Enabled is a little bit mispronounced. I like this construction. Enable somebody to do something. Is it a little bit heightened? Maybe it's okay for part 3. It's enabled us to do something. I would just say it lets us do something. I think that's better. Technology lets us, or technology helps us do something, but has enabled us to do something. It's a bit higher with register, but it's okay.
The internet, and which is connected to all over the world, and if we
Okay, but to get into friends. We know what the internet is. We know, okay, it helps us to stay connected all over the world, but specifically, how does it help us to make new friends?
don't have if we don't use technology, then we there is a limitation to make friends. But
What is that limitation?
When we use internet, that
So again, specifically, you could say, and you could use an example. You could say, oh, well, with the internet, there are just more people out there. So if you're interested in something very niche, something very rare, like let's say you love playing chess and you're from a small town and there aren't many people who like playing chess, if you go online, you can find a friend that has the same interests as you. However, if you don't have an internet connection, you might find it really difficult to find someone with the same interests, right? That's again, it's clear, it's on topic, it has an example. It's what you're trying to say, I think, but you're kind of like half satisfying the listener, and the listener has to kind of listen and go, ah, yeah, I can kind of work it out, but you're not fully satisfying the listener with full answers.
means we are using a lot of applications and we are communicating with a lot of people from different countries of the world.
Yeah, but it's not on, friendships, making new friends.
And in that way, we can make a lot of friendship with the different people of the world.
Why? Because we use applications. I mean, specifically. So again, candidate's doing all right in terms of his answers, but not at that C1 level in terms of fluency and coherence.
So I think it has changed a lot.
And can you think of any ways that the internet has created problems between friends? So you might think that the internet has been a positive thing, but still, the question demands that you should talk about some problems. Now, one problem might be the rise of social media. And with social media, maybe this creates like bullying, or it makes it easier for friends to fall out. People might post pictures without somebody's permission online. And then, some people might be angry about that. Or sometimes you might have a friend who blocks you on a social media platform, and this can create problems, right? Or maybe you speak to people a little bit too much and you can annoy your friends. Now, this isn't something that happens with me, and it's not something that I think is a real problem with the internet, but I'm just showing that I can speak about this topic. But can you?
To be honest, I don't think that it is making problems with friends.
The question isn't, does the internet make problems with friends? The question is, can you think of any ways in which the internet creates problems between friends? And there are ways in which the internet can create problems among friends. And it's your task here as a candidate to discuss some of those problems, not to reject the idea and move off topic. So you have to deal with the question.
Because I think we all are aware of everything and we are
So notice this as an answer. In what ways can the internet create problems between friends? Oh, it doesn't make problems because we are all aware of everything. It isn't an answer to the question, I'm sorry.
very careful of, about each other, and we have enough ability to understand what is wrong, what is good, and
I think this will be the last question that I listen to, and then we'll go to feedback.
internets are just allowing us to communicate with each other around the world. And like we need to depend on ourselves to, like, we should think about the people to when we are making friends, whether they are good or bad. If
That's not a question. That's not an answer to this question, though.
we think of them as very honest for people, the time we should make friends.
The candidate here is saying that we should make friends with honest people. It's not a response to the question.
Otherwise not.
Okay, I think I'm going to leave it there. There were a couple of other questions, but I think I've got enough content here to make some decisions. And I think I was a little bit too detailed in part one, but let's get to some of this feedback. So fluency and coherence for me is a 6. So a couple of the good things. You're ready and willing to speak at length, and this is good. However, your answers can be difficult to follow because of 3 things. Because 1, your answers are often too long. 2, your answers often go off topic. And 3, there was a third reason why they're difficult to follow. No, let's leave it there. So your answers are often too long and your answers often go off topic. That is a problem. Sometimes you repeat ideas, and in part 2, it was clear that you lost the central theme. Central theme, talk about a close friend you have. You just lost that theme there. In part one, your answers are too long. In part three, your answers aren't on topic. And in part two, yeah, like I say, you drifted off topic again. Lexical resource, I do think we can award the 7. So I mentioned before, your range of vocab is good, and you can speak about a variety of different topics, from the internet to your studies to TV and movies and things like this. You can speak about a variety of topics comfortably. Sometimes your accuracy falls a little, and you have some odd word choices, like be involved in many works, admitted me to a club. So, there are a couple of word choices that I think I don't quite get what that means. Some of your vocab isn't entirely appropriate in terms of register, meaning some of your vocab feels a little too formal. Remember, the IELTS should be, neutral, conversational. We don't want to swear, we don't want to use too much slang, but it should be neutral, friendly, conversational, not formal, academic, technical. But I still think you have enough lexical resource in there for a 7. Grammatical range and accuracy, I think you have a 7. I think this is the closest thing that you have to an 8. So despite some errors, your grammar is generally reliably accurate. You also show a nice range, especially with tense or time and aspect. Present time, past time, future time, continuous, simple, perfect, continuous, all of that stuff you do well. You use modality well. I could see everything from the top of the mountain. You use modality well, and there are some nice verb patterns. I like this: somebody to do something, want somebody to do something. You used enable somebody to do something. So, those patterns I like. You used suggest somebody to do something, which isn't, appropriate. Suggest doesn't follow this pattern. So, there were a few errors, but I think, band 7 is fair. And pronunciation 6, a couple of points here. So, firstly, it's generally easy to understand most of what you say. However, you speak too quickly, and this results in the following problems. Number 1, some words just get lost. You just can't hear what that word is. 2, there is no effective pausing. Sometimes we want to pause in English for a reason. And finally, there is a lack of stress, sentence stress. We don't hear like, I went to the shop to buy some bread. I went to the shop to buy some bread. We don't hear words that stand out in your sentences because you're speaking too quickly and everything sounds the same and every word has exactly the same meaning. So the chunking, the stress timing just isn't there for a band 7, unfortunately. So I certainly feel like Sonny probably he's C1. I think if he took an English test, like a grammar vocab test, something like this, maybe if he did Cambridge Advanced, he might get a C1, although Cambridge Advanced is difficult. Yeah, he might get a C1. I fully expect him in listening and reading to get C1, but for me, in this speaking performance, the overall mark is 6.5, which puts him at the high end of B2. Now, I will say that I had one candidate from Bangladesh who got a score of 8.0, and I felt like Sunny is just as good as this candidate. But this candidate from Bangladesh, I think I gave him a score of 6.0 or 6.5. So, some examiners in Bangladesh have different things that they like. Of course, we all have the same training. Every examiner has the same training, but interpretations of that, what we want, the interpretation can change sometimes. So if Sunny got a 7.0 or a 7.5, I wouldn't be surprised. But I always try to mark honestly and objectively. And for me, Sunny deserves a score of 6.5 for this. Any areas of improvement for him? Well, first thing, just a minor thing, we'll start with something small. Don't answer every question with, well. It's just a small thing. Another small thing, when the examiner asks you to stop talking, stop talking. I know, I know, but it is, that's my advice. You can choose to follow it or you can choose to ignore it, but that's my advice. Shorten, or not, maybe not shorten, but be more, and this is a difficult piece of advice, be more concise with your answers. They are too chaotic. A few people mentioned this actually in the comments section. A few people said, like, I found it difficult to follow what he was saying. It's because your answers are too chaotic. You have to simplify your answers. Be more concise with your answers. They're too chaotic. Simplify your answers. And again, is it enough? Will Sunny now say, okay, now I will do it perfectly? It's a difficult thing to learn how to do, right? If you ask me, Glyn, what's your favorite sport? I say, oh, there are lots of different sports that I like, because when I was younger, I used to play a lot of different sports. Like I used to play football and cricket and rugby. Well, we had rugby at school, but I didn't play with my friends. But we did play rugby sometimes with my friend. I also played tennis. And then as I got older, I started playing like table tennis and badminton, those racket sports, because I think I have like good hand-eye coordination and things like this. So yeah, and I like playing pool. I don't know if it's really a sport or if it's a game, and like chess is one of my favorite things to play, but again, I don't know if it's really a sport or not. What's your favorite sport? My favorite sport is football. I used to play it a lot, but nowadays I watch it more than I play it. My favorite team, unfortunately, is Newcastle United. Simple, on topic, developed. Slow down. Don't speak so quickly. It feels like it's a race for you, that you want to answer things as quickly as possible. Don't slow down. Cool. I think I'll leave it there in terms of advice and in terms of everything. So for me, score of 6.5, a good attempt. Sunny is a great user of English. He should be proud of the achievements that he's made already, but there's definitely room for improvement there. And I hope Sunny does get 7.0, 7.5, because I think, his English knowledge is there. It's just he's so chaotic with the delivery of his language. But a really, really nice guy. Really nice to meet him. I wish him the very best. Yeah. So enough. So I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of this candidate speaking. If you would like your own free practice speaking test with this level of feedback, almost 1 hour of feedback for free on your speaking. If you'd like this for yourself, you can request this on my Telegram channel, Expert Examiner. I also do free writing checks for IELTS tasks. And again, if you want more information on how you can get this, you have to be on my Telegram channel, and a link to that Telegram channel is given in the description below. Have a wonderful Saturday and see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.